Okay, guys, welcome to today's show, and we're going to talk about tax today. We'll timestamp this because we're going to talk about obviously the change in government and Andy Burnham coming in as the new Prime Minister and the effects that that's going to have on particularly property investment and investors with the tax aspect and the changes that he's already made and ones that are to come as well.
What, a whole 45 quid a year saving? If I tell you what, if that's going to make a change to your lifestyle and your family, 45 quid a year, you're in trouble.
Yeah, especially in this day and age, it's not really a lot, to be honest. But, I think with the change of every government, we see it quite a lot, Jim. These promises, they always promise change. But as an investor, I mean, Jim, you'll know over the years, as an investor, do you actually ever make money from these promises? Does it ever actually have a profound effect on what you're doing?
Well, no, the 45 quid, because it's the prices of utilities are about to go up. Because they've got that, they've got that thing. It goes every 6 months or every quarter or something. The new price level or the price cap on utilities. So it's like it's going to go up. So it's you're just going to be worse off. So I think it's you'll probably never see. You probably never really see it. You'll never experience it because it is so minute. It's a token gesture.
Do you think that it's fair to say that these changes, they don't really make you money, but it's about really understanding what the changes mean? People hear all these headlines, that property reforms, landlord crackdowns, affordable housing, council house building, which we're hearing again, but it's understanding what they actually mean and how that's going to play out in the long run.
It's quite interesting that we've got more knowledge than ever before, I think, actually, on the actual government front bench, in housing. Angela Rayner, I think, is taking the lead again as Housing Secretary. You've got Healy, I think, was involved in housing previously as well. So there is a good, and Burnham was clearly involved in housing when it came to Manchester. Whether that was successful or no, I don't know. I hear it wasn't, but other corners I hear it was. So it kind of but I think you're absolutely right. When headlines talk about new taxes, everybody just stops.
Yeah.
And that's quite worrying. They stop investing. It's immediate. They stop investing. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's see what happens. I mean, even the transaction that we're thinking about now, I'm actually on the fence. It's like, you okay if this comes off? It's like, will I actually go ahead with it? Because the nervousness of what could come on in the future could affect the downside that I play.
Yeah.
That's all. And I certainly don't want to be in a position where I can't weather a storm. So I always play that side and make sure I'm covered as a result and hedged against anything else. But others hear the headlines and quietly buy more property.
Probably like me, anyway. The vast majority of people do hear these headlines and think about taxes and just stop dead in their tracks.
And they do stop, Whereas for me, I'm like
yourself,
If the market's going down and there's advantage to be taken of that and opportunities available, I'm like, I'm going to go for that. I mean, I'm still capitalising on Section 24 just now. And it's still going for people that are having to pay more tax under Section 24 of the Taxes Act, which is you can only deduct mortgage interests against your individual payments as a tax credit.
Yeah.
After you calculate the tax on everything that you made before that. So just let me explain. If you made £1,000 in rent and you had £300 worth of repairs, that would be £700 left. If your mortgage was £700, your interest only, you'd be left with zero. But you would actually be taxed under £700, which is before the mortgage interest. So if you're a higher rate payer, you'd be taxed at 40% of the 700, which is 280 quid.
Yeah.
But then subsequently, you'd only get 20% off of the 700 mortgage interest you've got. So you'd effectively pay 140 quid for making no money at all. That's a great system, eh?
Which isn't great.
It's good for the government, but it's no good for housing. It's not good for investors, and it's certainly no good for the tenant, because then shortages apply. Scotland, since 2019, 70,000 single unit landlords have actually sold and left the market completely. What does that tell you?
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes. And before we dive into it today, I think it's quite difficult to speak about new governments and things, and new prime minister and all the rest of it, without it getting political. But this is not a political debate. We're trying to understand how the governments shape your wealth and how, as an investor, you could adapt to the changes. And that's what the aim of today's discussion is. And
they probably just change the rules, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
The governments don't actually build wealth. They're supposed to create the environment for us to build wealth, the entrepreneurs to build wealth, and that's what they're meant to do. But all they do is change the rules, don't they?
Yeah, change the rules or move the goalposts. And I think it's been like that for generations. The new government comes in, and every investor in that generation thinks that the government is making investing harder by changing the rules or moving the goalposts. Do you know whether it's
that? Of course that. You just have to look at the private rental sector to understand that. Section 24 came in when you can only deduct on an individual landlord, not in a corporate landlord. Corporate landlords have different rules. They can deduct everything, mortgage interest, against the full amount. Whereas an owner, a personal owner, self-employed or sole trader, can only deduct the tax credit under Section 24. But then when you look at, when I go way back to the beginning, I had built up 60% capital allowances. 60% capital allowances I had built up under the previous capital allowances, previous capital allowances tax. Yeah, 60%. So it means if I made 100,000 profit, I would get 60,000 off first before it actually, I would pay capital gains tax on 40 grand. Now I pay a base rate on the whole 100,000. So I've actually had to, I've got that taken off of me. And then also I've had the 10% wear and tear allowance right across all your properties over your top line rent being taken off as well as a taxes thing. So if you were in 100,000 in rent, you were fully furnished properties you were doing, then you could take off 10% of your tax bill. So that would be 10 grand I would get off my tax bill before I actually paid it. That would be another allowance. And then also what they had replaced it with, well, it's only what you put in as new furnishings, and you can only deduct that. You think I'm actually going to spend 10 grand on furnishings? No, very unlikely. And that's why they did it, because it was so lucrative for landlords, but lucrative in a way that it kept us going. And that's why a lot of landlords left as well. So Section 24, you've got capital gains allowances, you've got the wear and tear allowance, and now you've got, on corporate landlords, you've got dividend tax, which has been increased. So the allowance for dividend tax has been reduced, and the tax for dividend tax has been increased. So we're getting hit both ways. And for single unit landlords, I think they're actually increasing the tax by 2% as well. So instead of paying 22% basic rate on investment income and 20% on investment income, I think they're actually going to be paying 22%.
Mm-hmm.
Why would anybody want to invest in property?
when you go through all the stats,
higher taxes, higher interest rates, more regulation. Your property has continued creating wealth for people who are properties and continue creating wealth for people who adapt. But what if you have no choice? What if you have no choice?
That's the point, I think, for discussion here, because the changes are inevitable, and whether it's you could adapt to them or whether they are going to completely wipe you out. And it will be different for everybody depending on what your setup is. Can you weather the storm? Can you change? Have you got the mindset to think about it correctly to change? Or are you just going to walk away?
Yeah, have you set up in the first place? That's what it is. It's you change the things you can, you accept the things you can't. But you have to be prepared for accepting things you can't, just in case. And you have to have a bit of foresight to think, where could this go? What could actually happen? And the most important one for me is Section 24 for owners, self-employed owners. And what I mean by that is you've got making tax digital now coming in for these people. So more regulation on what they've got to do to submit returns digitally online, which they didn't do before. Then also I've got a funny feeling they're going to take away the tax credit at 20% at some point.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Right.
I just definitely think that. And the reason why I'm thinking that is because there's a lot of landlords moved over to a corporate structure. So there's going to be pretty few left. And God forbid it, you're the few left. Because I think that's when they're going to change it. Because it's not going to impact a lot of landlords. When they brought in Section 24, what happened was I was a test case for the Treasury Select Committee. So Roger Mullen, MP at the time, he was on the Treasury Select Committee. He brought my case forward. Stephen Githens had put it forward to Roger. Roger brought it forward, and he said, "Look, there's Jim Parker. He's got X amount of properties. He's got X amount of income. If he earns nothing, in other words, breaks even, he's going to have to pay $6,000 in tax." Even and he said that does not make sense.
Sensical,
yeah. Surely we should review that at some point in the future, because he says you'll not get it changed, but you could get a review. So we went for the review, and it fell on deaf ears, and they said, "Well, it is what it is. It only affects 1 in 4 landlords, so who cares?" That was effectively what the reply was from the Treasury Select Committee about Section 24. So there was no review date. There was no review at all put in, and it was just like, well, we don't care. We're just going to rant and see what happens.
So just bypassed and just let it run its course.
Now, let's look on hindsight. Hindsight's a great thing.
Yeah.
Look at how rents have skyrocketed because limited supply. Because at that point, a lot of landlords left the market as well. That's the slippery slope. When it started to go down, when Section 24 was announced, the sell-off for single unit landlords and just landlords think, I've had enough. I invested in early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. We're now 15, 20 years in. I'm just going to take the money and run now and forget the hassle. And that's what a lot of landlords did. And that pushed the supply down, so limited supply, and demand for these properties left up. And what happens? Rent goes up as well. And then what happened? COVID came along. It burst in on the scene, and then what happened was everybody panicked. Everybody went to buy property at the same time. Prices of houses went up. There was a whole load of money, billions of pounds of money, injected into the system. All the prices of houses were readjusted to a higher level. Then what comes next is rents go up exactly at the back of that, because 2 or 3 years later, people are buying investment properties at that new price level, and they're having to charge higher rents as a result for buying them at that.
And it has that knock-on effect.
And then it went up again. So this misnomer at the government's peddle about landlords are just coining it in, creaming it in, is all driven by them. All these problems is driven by them. It's had a knock-on effect to tenants. Yes, we are getting political.
It's kind of difficult not to,
because we see it, and the majority of the public, well, the majority of investor landlords see it and understand it, and people that understand what's happened. But mainstream media doesn't understand that. They don't want to peddle that idea because no one wants to be sympathetic towards landlords.
Yeah. It does seem to be the general consensus. I just thought I'd put out the political thing there because I know you guys will be in the comments box and things as well. It's not a political debate, but we will have to get political at some point talking about governments. But it's absolutely right what you say, Jim. Changes in tax policy and things, that has a change on behaviour and how you do things. As long as you understand it, do you know, the investors who understand the changes and the incentives, they're the ones that normally outperform those who react emotionally to it, rather than think about it logically. I think that's quite an important thing.
Tell you another thing, which I think might actually happen in the future. Somebody's going to play Monopoly that much, or they're going to come over the community chest or the chance cards, and they're going to go repairs and improvements to property, tax every property £200. That could potentially end up being on investor landlords.
And just implement the game into real life.
Honestly, because it's out there, isn't it? It's out there, and it just gives that impression that could be possible, and then everybody goes, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Where have I heard that before?
Monopoly.
Honestly, but that's what they do. Where have I heard that? Oh, where have I heard that before? It's like, that just sounds, that sounds a good idea. See how that happens?
Yeah.
Because it's indoctrinated into us through the chance community chest card. God forbid any politician sees this, because they'll go, this will be a great idea. And it's like, it's all Jim's fault.
It's all on camera, so we'll hold you to it. But back to, I mean, we're in Scotland, and Scotland here has really experienced quite a lot and quite a lot of and numerous policy changes for property over the recent years. Yet demand, as you said, Jim, for rental housing has remained really strong, and that's because ultimately of housing shortages. Do you think that investors, though, they focus a lot on what governments are saying rather than what's actually happening in the market, and let that influence them rather than the market itself?
Absolutely, I would agree with that 100%. They do focus on what the governments are saying and actually not understanding where it is. Look at COVID. Everybody says the market was going to tank. The market's going to tank, and I was going, oh my God, this is going to boom. And I was listening. I wasn't listening to a government at that time. I was listening to Buffett and people like that. And Buffett was clearly telling us the lessons that you'd learn from anything of the past is when they inject free money into the system, borrowed money, and then it works its way into the system. The first thing that happens out of it is inflationary pressure. And that's where we got the housing boom from. It was some like, oh God, dare I say, is it 800 billion? No, it can't be. It was like 9 billion, 90 billion, whatever that was at the time. And I was saying it on previous posts that that's what was floating about in people's household budgets. Like something like 8 billion floating about in people's household budgets, because they'd had the extra money from COVID. All the loans, I mean, the bounce back loans. Look at all the bounce back loans that were chucked in. I mean, they're getting paid back now, but imagine all that money coming in at the same time and how much of a spike that caused. It's like glucose coming into your system, and your pancreas goes, oh my God. It's like, start producing insulin. Oh my God. It's like an overload, and you become a huge insulin spike. Whereas if it came in a bit at a time, you wouldn't have that spike. You'd have a natural, slow, maybe even a slow increase. But that's probably about it. It wouldn't have been a huge thing, but it would have happened over a longer period of time and would have been balanced out by salary increases, absorbable, things like that. That's how that happens. As soon as you put a huge amount of money in the economy from borrowing and add additional money in there, that's what happens. What do you think is going to happen when AI goes pop? All that money disappears.
Yeah.
So what happens to an economy then? Contraction. Because then everybody's money they've got in investments in AI, so they've got them in there, all goes down in value. So that money gets sucked out again, doesn't it? And that's the next thing. That's kind of one thing you've got to be careful of. But going back to there, yeah, absolutely. You look at what's happening in the market, and you understand it. And the classic example at that time was like, it's still grossly undervalued property in comparison to the multiplier of 6 times annual salary in most areas in Scotland, especially Scotland. I mean, we're only sitting at an average price right now, as of last month, of 196,000 in Scotland.
196, yeah.
Yeah. So we're sitting at an average price of 196 in Scotland. Then look at the multiplier. I mean, it's about 35 grand's average salary. So multiply that by 6. You're just below the 6 times multiplier. So Scotland's still a really buoyant market.
Still
but
affordable.
remember that's the average. So you've got properties which are way beyond that, but you've got 50% of properties that are below that. So 50% of the properties in Scotland are below that 6 times multiplier. That is the ones that you go for investment. Once you've worked out about the demographics, about where it is, what it'll rent for, can you weather a storm like your occupancy rate? Can you weather a storm with a reduction in rent if there's a rent control put in? Can you weather a storm if interest rates go up? Can you weather a storm if your repairs go up, your repair bills go up? These sort of things. That once you've assessed all that, you know exactly that 50% you need to go for.
Yeah. And that's all about having that all planned out and the numbers working at the beginning and knowing your end point if you might, and the eventualities if you end up there.
That's separating facts from speculation, isn't it? And it confirms the direction and includes things like greater emphasis on for what's actually changing in this economy.
Yeah.
According to Burnham, it's like, yeah, okay, we're going to great emphasis on council house building, and that's what has been said already. Continue pressure on improve standards when the private rented sector. That's going to hit most single unit 2-unit landlords quite badly. That's the majority case. The people. I mean, that's probably the worst thing to do ever. But that's what they want to do. Stronger enforcement against poor landlords. Well, I do not believe that for 1 second, because I just emailed the registration at the council this morning with an advert talking about there's no EPC rating in it, there's no landlord registration number out on social media. I says, how are you going to police this? And they went, well, we can't.
So it's like, that's quite.
We can only do anything if somebody sends it to us and we find the person who they are. But they don't put a contact number and they just ask you to message them direct. Then how they're going to get that person? They don't even know who it is. It's a needle in a haystack. So you can't really find enforcement against poorer landlords because it's hard to enforce. Because all the landlord needs to do is go, yeah, I'll sort that. And then it's like, then your case is goosed. You're not prosecuting anybody. It's sorted, that's it.
Yeah, and I feel like
what you say and what you do are two entirely different things when it comes to the government. They love saying things, they love putting legislation in place, but they don't back anything up at all, really.
Yeah, and they're also talking about this, a continual policy which focuses on tenant affordability and things as well.
Yeah, tenant affordability in Scotland, especially in the Fife area, and places, the villages and the towns and stuff like that, and the city sort of types, it's still affordable.
It's still affordable.
I mean, we're renting 2-bed flats at what, 550, 580? Some are at 500.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to talk about that, you see, because that's the majority of cases. And the government doesn't want to talk about that because that doesn't reinforce what they're saying to the public about everything being unaffordable. Yeah, that's what they're not saying that to the public about anything being unaffordable. Even though they're saying the average rent is at 1,200, it's like, okay, 50% of the stock then is below that. So what's wrong with that then if the average rent's at that? Because people have got access to 50% of that stock, whereas under the local housing allowance, which is universal credit, they only give them access to 30% of the stock. So they're sitting castigating us saying about that when we give them access to 50% of the stock, which is under that value, and yet they only give them access with the contribution that they're giving them under universal credit to 30% of that stock. Who's worse off who's the person that's the bad person in this situation? It's the government.
Yeah.
It's not the landlord. So they need to stop pointing their fingers at us.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a few things that could cause, the main things that people will probably cause panic with people when it comes to new governments discussing things. But there's a few things that are not law yet, although they've been discussed. And that's things like the changes to capital gains tax. I mean, ultimately it might come.
Well, it could put it up to 28% again, can't they? Because they had it at 28% before. But then what they worked out is when they put it up to 28%, they actually got less revenue than they did when it was down at 25%. Because less people went, I'm not selling if it's 28%. I'm not giving that a slice. It's like, I'll just keep it then. So they actually brought in less money.
Because people were holding on to what they had rather than pay them.
Yeah, this is what they don't understand as well. They don't get it. If you get wealthy people and give them preferential rates than what other countries give them, then you attract their wealth to your country. They'll spend their money in your country. And as I said before, it's injecting money into an economy. And as we just discussed, what happens when you inject money into an economy? A rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah.
And good things happen for everyone, not just for the wealthy people. But there's some people that just want it for themselves and they don't want wealthy people to benefit. The party of envy and jealousy, that's these parties. We all know these political parties, the party of envy, party of jealousy. These are the ones we'll have to watch out for because they just don't want anybody to make any money except, well, they want to give money away to everybody and they want to give all the wealthy people's money away. So what does wealthy people do? Tell you what, we'll take our money,
away
out of the economy. And what we discussed at the beginning about out of the economy, it contracts and goes down. People lose jobs as a result because nobody has money to buy anymore. They just don't understand. I mean, it's simple, so simple economics, and it is common sense to most people. But you know what? The thing about common sense, it ain't that common, especially when it comes to politicians.
Just to get that in at the end there. But yeah, you're right though, and I've spoke about things like the wealth taxes, and spoke about replacing council tax or stamp duty, and large scale property tax reform and things. But these at the moment are, ideas and continue to be discussed, but they do still remain proposals and rather than actual legislation at the moment.
Yeah, but all these proposals frighten investors. Remember, that is the main issue here. It's like you want to create some sort of stability and give people confidence that they can invest in UK PLC.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point. And that doesn't give them it if they keep going on about this. If they keep going on about wealth taxes, even wealth taxing people that have a big property, it's got a high value in it. Oh, your property is worth 1 million, so we'll tax you for it. Wait a minute. I'm not earning anything. I've bought that outright. It's worth $1 million, but I don't earn anything now because I'm retired, really. So I'm only got a small pension. But I've saved all my life to get this and pay off my mortgage. And just because it's worth more than 1 million, you're wanting to tax me on it now and classify me as wealthy. Is that right? Probably not.
Probably not.
Because the person that's probably made the same amount of money as them is not getting taxed at. It's probably pissed it up all against the wall.
Mm-hmm. Rather than being like,
yeehaw, parties. Party time. Where's the booze? It's like that's what they've done with their money. And yet the person that's saved and scrimped for their future and all the rest of it has to end up handing their money to the people that have actually done that.
Yeah.
That, for me, doesn't seem fair.
No, it doesn't. Definitely not. Yeah, and
this is Richard. I'll just finish off here before we go to the next subject. This is why markets often react before laws are ever passed. They get a bit jittery and they factor this in. And so my question is then, and to most people tuning into this right now and listening to this now, should investors do this as well? Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, to have that mindset to react and make changes before waiting on headlines of the government to influence you.
Proactive.
Yes, then reactive. You've hit it on the head there, definitely.
What's the difference in Scotland then? Because we are a bit different, aren't we?
Yeah, Scotland faces a kind of different challenge. I mean, tax is only one side of the equation, and the bigger issue ultimately remains supply. And the population here, I mean, across the country, but here in Scotland, the population needs homes. Private landlords continue providing housing that the government cannot supply quickly enough. Yeah. And there's no getting away from that. And we can see it clearly in the lack of supply. And that, in turn, obviously, up against rental demand continues to exceed the available stock across a lot of Scottish locations. I mean, look at us, for example. We're here in Fife on the East Coast. Predominantly we are in Fife. I've been doing stuff in Dundee, and the amount of interest that I'm getting for property in Dundee is just astronomical. Obviously, city is a bigger area, but I was completely surprised at I expected a lot of interest, completely surprised. It far outweighed my expectation. So it just shows that supply is obviously lower than the demand, much lower.
Well, it does mean upward pressure on rents and stronger occupancy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because people are less likely to move when rents are actually increasing, because it's like, all right, I'm going to move from this, which I've actually got a lower rent, and I'm going to move to a higher rent. This is why a lot of people have actually stayed a lot longer in our tenancies for that reason. Because we're only increasing 1 or 2% a year, maybe 3 or 4% at the most, or maybe up to 6%. But we were increasing a lot more in rent controls because Patrick Harvey gave us the opportunity to do that. Thanks, Patrick. Buy you a beer next time. But That then causes inward and outward pressure on the fact that housing and the government can't, like what you says, the government can't supply it, and it kind of creates an interesting contradiction, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, because governments are obviously, they wish obviously to reduce housing costs, but they're discouraging investment, and that then reduces supply even further. So it's
this is what I've always said. This is listen, I've always beat this drum. If you build more, this is so simple for a politician. So if anybody's got a politician on their books or with a friend, send this to them, message them and send this to them, because this is so simple. You've got a housing benefit bill, a universal credit bill, okay, and it's billions. So why do you not take some of that billions at a time and actually build council housing and take that universal credit out of the private rented sector, put these people into your council
accommodation, yeah.
And actually that will pay the savings that you'll make on the universal credit bill, will pay for the council housing that you've just built over a period of time. It's called a return on investment. I'm not allowed to say that to a government official, getting a return on investment. Oh my God, they might make a profit.
But then if it's providing housing and solving a problem, then what's the problem with that?
Because they're thick. Honestly, they don't get it. They don't understand it. They listen to people in offices who have been entrenched in civil servancy status for years and years and years, have pushed about bits of paper, and actually have never been out to see daylight and understand what's actually happening on the ground. That's why. And they believe these people when they put a paper in front of them. Because remember, when a housing minister is appointed, most housing ministers haven't got a clue about housing. Yeah, they don't have a housing background at all. They don't have a clue what's going on. They just have to rely on somebody producing a script for them and going, oh, right, great, I'll just read this out. And then challenge them at some point. Even on question time, you should challenge them and go, and where did you get that information from? Where did you get that statistics from? And they'll go, and give them a politician's answer and round about the houses and waffle it and try and get away with the fact that they don't have a clue what they're talking about. That's the problem we've got with governments. That's how you reduce housing supply, Richard. Definitely. But you do discourage, as you said, investment, and you reduce supply even further. That's a dichotomy. It's a contradiction. You're just causing a major problem here.
Yeah, and
my question then, okay, to you is: can governments genuinely improve affordability without encouraging private investment?
Well, no, they can't. They can't. They have to, if they want to try and improve things and improve affordability and things. They're going to have to start encouraging the private sector and private investment. But they just don't marry that up, obviously.
Imagine if you'd encourage the private sector to build even more. I mean, they're doing it with corporate landlords, thinking that's the panacea. It's going to solve it all. Building 600 units at a time and 300 and 200 units at a time. But they don't realise it's what they're actually doing is they're just creating a rod to beat themselves with. As more single unit landlords leave, sell up, and that creates a lot of stock for people to buy. But then the control goes into the hands of a few, what we would call oligopolies, not monopolies. Oligopoly is like the petrol companies, BP, Shell, people like that. There's only about 6 of them in the world that control the whole thing.
That's not a conglomerate. It's
it's an oligopoly. So there's about 6 of them, and rather than being on their own as a monopoly, 6 of them still have control because they have unwritten rules between themselves about, I tell you what, we'll only compete on points. Does that sound familiar with supermarkets as well?
Yeah.
The
big players,
Until you get people like Aldi's and Lidl's coming in and going, get it up, we're going to fight against you on price. And they're going, oh no, we need to get rid of these boys. It's like they'll never get rid of them, by the way.
It's the bigger ones that try to do, obviously, points cards and things, to make it.
Yeah, and that's how they're doing it. So the petrol companies do it and the big supermarket chains do it. That's what they always used to do. The banks do it. You see that as well. They give incentives to stay with their bank account. We'll give you free insurance and everything. How many people have actually... I have never in my life had any occasion I've needed to claim on their insurance I get as part of my account. So they're making money for nothing.
Money for old rope, as they would say.
It is to a degree. So you're right. The governments, they can't really improve affordability without encouraging private investment in the beginning. Because you bring more private investors in, then more stock comes in. The demand starts to quell, to go down because you've got more stock coming in. And then when you've got that under control, then you start quietly bringing in council housing, replacing the private rented sector over a period of time. See that? I'm doing that. This is like quietly sneaking up in the private landlord. It's like, oh, by the way, you're out of business now, because we've all got council housing to replace all your stock and take all your tenants. But that's effectively the ultimate thing that you'd want to do. They should just put me in charge of it, because it's like, I'm just so competitive. Even if it wiped out the private rented sector, I'd do it just because I'm so competitive.
To prove you could make it work, yeah,
because I know it works. I know how to do it. And I would be grateful to a degree just to be able to sell up and actually put my money in some sort of fund and think, okay, I could just live off that for the rest of my life, and I wouldn't need to bother about things like this, about having to worry about
all the things that go on.
Planning next, deal with banks and stuff like that. I would just sell up, put it in an account. That'll do. Live and drink pina coladas on the beach.
Virgin ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Not the but they actually do make good pina coladas. They do make really good non-alcoholic pina coladas, especially on Necker. Yeah. I've never tasted any pina colada better, virgin pina colada better than what it was on Necker Island. Just no one's been able to make and replicate this. Everybody just comes up with some lame effort, and it's like, that is not what I've had before.
That's just coconut milk and pineapple juice.
They can't get it right. They can't get it right at all. But they use syrup. That's the problem. They don't use coconut milk because that's too expensive for them. Yeah, that's what it is. They use coconut syrup. Yeah, and they put it in pineapple juice, and that's why you don't get the real colour of white in it. You don't get that white milky colour because they don't use
like a yellow.
I don't know why I use coconut milk because of that. I mean, what this has got to do with investment, I do not know.
We digress. Because you were talking about selling up and just drinking pina coladas for the rest of your days. But anyway,
when taxes rise, what do smart investors do? Do they adapt?
Yeah, taxes will always change, and like we're talking about, if taxes start to rise, history shows that investors, they rarely succeed by complaining about it. Mm-hmm. They succeed by adjusting, and whether that's possibly having a restructure of their portfolio and looking at how best they could mitigate the changes in tax. Limited companies where appropriate, and we're just talking about that earlier. I mean, things are going to change, and if it comes to the point where you have a lot of property in your own name, you're going to definitely feel the taxes hitting you.
Well, look at that other one I always said as well, is like they've got access to the records on Companies House about how many people actually are employed by limited companies. And for a lot of limited companies, there's no one employed at all. They're just investment vehicles. Mm-hmm. So there's no employees at all. Imagine if they were able to change the legislation to actually say that anybody that's got nobody employed will have a higher tax rate.
That would hit a lot of investors.
I think that's going to come as well at some point in the future. Because nobody cares about investors. Yeah. Investors have loads of money, don't they? Governments don't care about us. Yeah, we apparently do nothing for our money.
It's not a job.
How the hell do you think we acquired it in the first place? By hard work and knowledge and expertise and education and constant just discipline and consistency and getting on with it, working all these hours that no one else was ever prepared to work. Yeah. And yet they seem to think we do it for nothing.
Yeah, and then changes in tax obviously then brings in the importance of cash flow. And cash flow becomes so much more important. It already is important, but it's so much more important than just your speculation and things. You need cash flow and your assets as well. Looking at them and buying better quality assets rather than just buying up lots of property just for the sake of quality over quantity.
I'm not really sure if I agree with that.
I mean, I think
Because in this type of market, you could make money if you could rent a shed at this point. No, that I would, and you wouldn't get away with it. It wouldn't come under the legislation. But in this kind of market, it's like in London. You know, in London, they used to do that. They used to have like a shed, and they used to joke and say you could rent a shed.
I've seen things in London. It's like a cupboard with a bed and a side table and things, and they're renting it. I'm like, really? Could you do that? But you've clicked your mic.
Yeah, it's okay. Somebody was actually talking to me.
All right.
He said that helps, so I put myself on mute now.
I never heard it work.
So, you're absolutely right. I would, again, as I said before, I would argue about the better quality assets rather than simply buying more. If the numbers work, I always say if the numbers work, it doesn't matter what you've got. And if the downside plays well, it doesn't matter what you've got either. Because you've already downsided by saying if the occupancy rate drops, because no everybody will want the property. If the interest rate go higher, if the rent drops, because you maybe have to put a 1-bedroom person and charge a 1-bedroom rent for what is a 3-bedroom property. But if you've bought the 3-bedroom property at a good price point where it can still make money on a 1-bedroom rent, then hey, what's wrong with that? It's like that still makes sense, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think that's the better. So yes, you could buy quality assets. I'm never a fan of buying really expensive assets which has really high rents on it. Yeah, it sounds great and it sounds so intriguing, but it's almost like. And my mentors used to tell me this story, and I'll tell it again. It's the Coca-Cola machines. You're in Glasgow, okay? So we get in Glasgow and we go, I tell you what, we'll put one Coca-Cola machine, it's going to earn 100% of our profits, and we'll stick it in the city centre of Glasgow. How long do you think that's going to last? Kick, bang,
not long.
Smash. It's like, and 100% of your profits just wiped out if that happens. But could you imagine if you took 100 Coca-Cola machines, all making 1% profit to make up the 100% that you had before, and all covered, all the costs were covered. So it's the same sort of thing, the same investment return, but you've got 100 now, but all earning 1% as a result, because you're getting everybody else to do the work for you as a result, and that's why it's 1% each on 100 in Glasgow. So maybe 3 or 4 will be kicked and all the rest of it and be out of action. You've still got 96% of your profit under that scenario.
Because you spread the risk.
Yeah, spread the risk. Definitely. That's why I think it's so important to understand that your risk sensitivity. So risk analysis is key and fundamental on this. Yeah.
And looking at like you says, Jim, rather than possibly something that's higher quality, look at the yield and what your returns are going to be. Look at the location, look at what tenant demand you've got if it's property. Look at all these fundamental things that need to marry up to make a good investment.
Well, look at the guys buying in Aberdeen. I mean, Aberdeen is not a place I would want to go because I think it's like oil industry died. But what do you think is going to happen to the property if Andy Burnham starts to drill?
Yeah. Goes through the roof.
Great investment in Aberdeen then, eh? Everybody's going to go, happy days. Because the oil industry is going to boom again. And therefore, what's going to happen is the property market will boom as well. And all that investment they made in the early days and just kept sustaining it has come home to roost. Woohoo!
Yeah.
That's the key here. And that's what I did with Aberhill. I knew at some point in the time a train station, because it was always talked about, and at some point in time, there's going to be a train station at the bottom of that hill. Yeah. What's happened to it now? You know, Aberhill, it's actually lifted in terms of what people see from outside. And there's people outside actually coming to live in Aberhill.
Yep.
20 years ago, everybody, don't go near there. And it's like, well, that's when the prices were £9,000 and £10,000. Today, the prices are £55,000 and £60,000. That's 20 years. Sorry, that's a return on investment of 500% in 20 years. What happened to Dublin? It centupled. Is that? Yeah. That's what it's called.
It's amazing what we've seen in that area in the last couple of years, how things have just completely changed, the tenant demographic, everything.
Yeah. And that's over a period. Look at Battersea in London. Look at all these places that nobody used to go to near, and then how they were all regenerated and all of that. You know, these are all high quality places now. You spend an absolute fortune to live there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And when you go in a cafe or a pub, it's no like Witherspoon's here. It's like £12 a pint instead of £3.50.
Very different, yeah. That happens across the world.
Witherspoons, I've got Witherspoons their credit, Witherspoons, because I went to the airport and for a vegan breakfast at the airport, it was like 14 quid. And that's in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And I went to Witherspoons in London and it was £9 for the same thing. Wow.
The airport, though, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. But you understand the concept of what we're hopefully everybody understands the concept of what we're talking about. You can invest in areas which will be up and coming at some point in time, and all you need to do is service the debt. This is one thing I've learned all the time from people like had Arcadia Group and retail premises. They bought all the retail. I mean, the guy that has the Sports Direct, I bet you he's got investment in some of the retail units that he actually rents, and I bet you he rents them from his own pension fund or his own investment funds. So he owns the whole thing, and all Sports Direct is there to do is actually make profit, but not a huge amount of profit because it's there to service the debt and actually appreciate the value of the assets.
Yeah,
which appreciates his wealth, and it's not taxable. So he could borrow against it, can't he? He could loan against it, and that's not taxable either. See how that works.
So then, I was just trying to think. So then, the value of the business is pushing up the value of the asset. Is that's no forced appreciation, though?
Yeah, you can, and you can absolutely. So what's happening here is you could put commercial lease in place. Commercial lease has got maybe a 10% return on investment. So what happens is you've got maybe 10,000 rent a year, and it's got a 10% return. So divided by 0.1, that means your unit would be 100,000. But what happens if your rent over the next 5 to 10 years then goes up to 15,000? Okay, and divide that by 10%, and that it's now 150,000. It's the same unit.
Yeah.
And if you secure a rent and and you decide I tell you what, we'll start paying 30,000, and we'll lock our company into a deal over the next 5 to 10 years and 20 years. It's going to be 30,000 now. Your unit has now gone to 300,000. That's what they do in America. That's what Cardone does. Because in commercial property, these big, massive commercial developments at 600 units, residential developments, they're classed as commercial. They're commercial, they class them as. And that forces the appreciation when they put the rents up. See what happens in our country when you put the rents up? Nothing. Doesn't put the price of the property up because there is no commercial status on the property. Whereas in America, they do have that. And that's how they force appreciation on the property. And then they offload it to another fund. So he buys them. He then does them all up in his own name. He then forces the appreciation by getting all the rents up. And then he gets investors to invest in them at that point and uses their money from then on. And then he gets the first bite of the cherry, or he leaves an investment in there that he got for free then, because he gets all his money back out that he put in. But he has a percentage in there. Look at Richard Branson, Mosquito Island, across the way from Necker.
Yeah,
buys the land for 10 million. This is right from the horse's mouth, by the way. When we're out cycling, bought the land for 10 million, sold off several plots for 10 million, right? And used that money and the plots that he sold off to cover the 10 million that he bought, and build Branson Beach, and have Branson Beach and keep it for himself, and actually build the development and the property on Branson Beach. And he got that for nothing.
And he's got that making money.
He got that for nothing out the deal.
He's got his money back,
Yeah, he got that money. He got these whole real estate and the Branson Beach at the front overlooking Necker. That's probably what he wanted to keep it for. And everybody else developed it and paid for all that. He got that. That's a great deal, eh?
Yeah.
Got it for nothing.
But that's smart. That's a smart thing to do. I mean,
but that's what a lot of investors don't understand how to do, and that's what the big investors know what to do. Is they appreciate everything in value, and then they bail out and they keep a amount in there that they got for nothing, but they get all their money back out, if not more, and then just get other people to invest in it because they're happy to get that return at that level. Because the rents have gone up and the real estate is a higher value as a result of it. So I'll invest in that easily.
Okay. Right, let's move on to, we're going to talk about opportunity. And just, we've said this many times, opportunity usually hides behind people's fear. Whether that's, uncertainty, when that appears, many investors tend to disappear. Like we've seen a lot of investors in the private sector for housing. Here in Scotland, I mean, Jim, you said it earlier, 70,000 single unit landlords have exited because they had the fear, and or possibly they were pushed to their limits.
And everybody goes, there's 70,000 new properties in the owners market. No, there's not, because people like me bought them up.
Yeah.
So all these properties have just been bought up by bigger landlords. So the proportion of bigger landlords in Scotland has now increased from something like 6% to something like 30% of that mix now. So we've just got bigger as a result. So these never went back into there. We just bought the portfolios off them.
And exactly like you say, the competition reduces, negotiating powers improve, and
absolutely,
and motivated sellers like yourself increase.
Yeah, absolutely. Some landlords decide enough is enough because of that. That's why they're motivated sellers, and that often creates the buying opportunities for well-capitalized investors like myself. We're going through it now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Desperately wanting to get out of the market, and we're like, yeah, okay, we could make an offer on that.
Interesting though, I didn't come back to you, but you'd sent another idea to me, and I thought actually you're maybe onto something there. We've not spoken about it, but we will.
I have no idea what that is too. That's the thing off the top of my head too.
I'm not going to obviously talk about it.
I'll be interested to hear about that. What I said. I'll be interested to hear what I said to you, which I forgot.
Well, you emailed it to me.
I did. Okay,
we've not
I'll look forward to that then.
Right, okay. But yeah, as we say, that often creates buying opportunities for well-capitalized investors, like we've just spoke about. So every major property cycle has produced winners throughout the years, and not because conditions were ever easy. It's because somebody decided to stay in the market rather than just exit out of fear.
That is not just with property. That's with every opportunity.
Yeah,
that's what happens. And the only reason that you're wealthy in anything is probably because you stayed out. You toughed it out the longest, and actually you knew how to pivot over that time and last. That's how. Real estate. That's how your brand gets known after a time, and everybody just phones you and you're recommended all the time because everybody knows you now. Whereas the new kid comes on the block, it's like, a flash in the pan, and they have to then take to try and get established as well. That's the sort of thing that happens. You just become successful because you hang around long enough. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's that simple.
But you learn so much doing that as well, as long as you're in the right circles and the right people.
Absolutely, it's the wealth mindset, isn't it? It's the listen. Governments will change, budgets will change, interest rates will change, tax will change, markets will change. The thing about it is successful business people and investors have one thing in common. They change faster.
Yeah.
They change faster. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's it. They just change faster, Richard.
Yeah.
They just understand what's coming and they can pivot to it quite quickly. We're lean mean machines in terms of how we do things. We're not big, huge corporate entities that have to, let's have a board meeting and discuss it and then take 3 months. And then by the 3 months comes, it's like you've lost all the opportunities because you waited too long to get approval from everybody else. This is why it's important to be a master of your own destiny in these situations. And you have autonomy to make the right decision at that point in time, because then that allows you to be totally flexible and actually fast and get in there before everyone else. And actually have all your ducks in a row from your team. It's like the financing sorted out in advance. What can I get? Where can I get it? How can I get it? How much will it cost me? Your legal team, how long is that going to take you to process if you're going to do it? How are you doing for, timelines and queues and stuff like that in terms of what you're doing now? It's like we've got capacity, we've got space, great stuff. Where's the opportunities and other places? So it's understanding all them, and that is the one thing every investor and business person has in common that are successful, and is they can adapt and change faster.
Yeah, they make those decisions and know the right decisions and the right people to talk to in order to get everything moving forward. Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, wealth isn't built from us predicting the politics of things. it's built of how to actually adapt in the actual reality of things that when they're changing. Like, this is different now. We're going to have to do things slightly different in our strategy because this is the way it's done now, or this is the level of taxes that we're going to have to deal with, and factor that in. Every regulation creates winners and losers. You just need to really decide what side you're on.
Oh, but we're in a society. We're not allowed to have winners and losers now, are we? Everybody's got to be equal. That'll just never happen, will it?
No.
That just doesn't happen. You're always going to have the situation where, you know, everybody's equal, but some are more equal than others. And it's just natural. It's just the natural capitalistic system we operate. And anybody that's out there right now and says, oh, it's like, we need to change that, then show me a system that's more successful than capitalism for everybody, I suppose. Because the trickle-down economics of capitalism means that the wealth creator, the people that create the wealth, the trickle-down in the taxation that they contribute, and the trickle-down at the jobs that they create, the trickle-down at the pension funds they actually fund, the trickle-down at the return on investment they get for people's pension funds, are all important to what these entrepreneurs and wealth creators do. And that's why you don't want to get rid of them and don't want to put them off. You want to attract more of them.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about equal and I mean, the best will in the world, if you continually try and do things fair and equally and things, ultimately it'll hold you back.
Yeah,
because somebody else will go out there in front of you. Yeah.
Which side do you want to be on, Richard? You clearly want to be on the winner's side.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be on the winner's side. And if you're talking bullshit if you say anything different, because you probably go to the football every week, and guess what? You're wanting your team to win. You're wanting your rugby team to win. You're wanting the Olympian, the athlete to win. You're wanting the triathlete to win. You're wanting all these people to win. You're wanting your kids to win. So you can't say, oh, everybody's got to be equal. If you're saying people, you have to see, you want the people to win. Because people win, attract more successful people, and create more winners. And yeah, everybody can be a winner, but not everybody chooses to be a winner.
Right, okay.
And if I hear anybody saying that, oh, well, you don't understand my circumstances, or where I came from, what happened to me, and all the rest of it. I was homeless and unemployed in my early 20s. If I managed to do it, you could do it. I had no education, by the way. I really had a couple of ogres to my and a higher at a scraped through for mathematics. That was it. And I got kicked out of school as well. So you're sitting there telling me that, what's your excuse? Because it's going to be any excuse. You may as well just say, it's like, you know, my barbecue's no working, or my tires burst on and it's like, what's that going to do, man? Well, any old excuse will do.
Yeah.
Boo-hoo. Yeah. It's like, I've done it. I've been in that situation. I've been like that. You know, just hang around long enough. Trust me. If you're like this now and you're in your pity party, don't worry about it, because I've done it before as well, and I still do it now, actually, don't I?
On occasion.
It's not fair. It's like, but honestly, just hang around long enough, stay the course, and just keep at it, because you'll be successful in whatever you're wanting to do at some point in time in the future. Whether it's moderately successful, whether it's, you know, superstar successful, we have all got our own journeys in our past to take. But you have to play the hand you're dealt with. That's key. Don't try and change the cards. I mean, you can improve the cards that you've got. That's fine. But it's going to be difficult to change the cards, and that means bringing someone else in to do that, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Because at this point, if you were able to change the cards, you would have done it already. Think about that. If you were able to be successful, if you think, yeah, okay, it's like you'd be successful already. So don't fall foul of what my mentor said to me is, Jim, the height of ignorance is doing the same thing every single time, but expecting a different result. Don't think like that, Jim. You have to understand, if you keep doing the same thing, you will get the same result every single time. It will not change for you. You have to get out your comfort zone and do something it's uncomfortable or different to what you're doing now in order to change. The one thing consistent in life is
change.
Change. Nailed it, Richard. And on that point, yeah, that's us. 8 seconds to go to the hour. How did we get here?
Yeah, no, that was good. And as I say, it's quite a good topic because of where we are at the moment to cover. But yeah, I think just to close us out, I mean, the biggest risk in today isn't about tax, it isn't about regulation, and it isn't about the government. The biggest risk really is waiting, and people do it so much out of fear, out of not having the right knowledge, because many people will be waiting to see what happens, or somebody else is buying, or somebody else is improving, or somebody else is creating wealth. Governments, like we've spoke about, may write the rules, but investors decide how they play the game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's they're waiting to see what happens, and it's interesting that you said that somebody else creates wealth, somebody else is improving, somebody else is buying, and it's the not fair, and it become you almost get to the point where you become the crabs in the bucket, or you become that person. It's like you like to see people get ahead, but no ahead of you.
No, yeah.
And that's that. If you think like that, then yeah. If you think like that, you have to get a checkup from the neck up.
Yeah.
And change your stinking thinking.
Yeah, that's not the right mindset to have.
Coming at the cliches today, eh?
Yeah, you've got quite a lot to do.
I'm on a roll.
Well, we're going to wrap up there for today, but I'm sure
I was enjoying myself.
I'm sure with the changes in government and things, we will probably revisit this topic and see where we are maybe further down the line. But until then, Jim and I will catch you on the next show, and thanks for joining and jumping in the comments. You could reach out to me if you've got any questions, and we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.